If they tell you that a murderer has been released in the neighborhood, how would you feel? And this time we weren't releasing one, we were releasing 40,000.
I'm here with Laura Waters Hinson, director and producer of the film As We Forgive, which just won the Gold Prize for Best Documentary at the Student Academy Awards. Congratulations, Laura. What brings you to AFI Silver Docs?
Oh, thanks so much. Well, I'm a resident of Washington, D.C., and Silver Docs is just one of the best documentary film festivals in the world, as far as I know, and it's one of my favorite events of the year. I have come 3 years in a row now, so I'm just here for the films and the conference.
Tell us more about your film, As We Forgive. What is the premise for this powerful documentary?
As We Forgive is a 1-hour documentary about the lives of 2 Rwandan women who are on a journey to reconcile with the men who killed their families during the 1994 genocide. So it's a really compelling, intense portrayal of 2 very different stories of reconciliation in Rwanda.
This is such a powerful film. What was your inspiration for this project?
Well, I'd studied African politics. I did study abroad in college in South Africa, and a couple years after college, I visited Rwanda with a group from my church. We were there to establish a sister church partnership. And there I learned that the government of Rwanda was actually releasing tens of thousands of genocide perpetrators who had confessed to their crimes. So in 2003, the government started releasing, I think they released 40,000 at one time. And these killers went back to their hometowns, back to the villages where they killed people. And the reason they were being released is that there was just overcrowding in the prisons. There was a huge backlog of court cases. So, I found this out when I went to Rwanda the first time. And I said, I can't believe this is going on. The world doesn't even know about this. And I was like, that's one of the most compelling, scenarios that I've ever heard in my whole life. So I vowed to come back to make it my master's thesis for my MFA in film at American University. And so I spent a whole year raising money from family and friends, raised a small budget, $30,000, and came back the next summer in '06 with a group of film students and shot the film.
Talk to us about Mia Farrow. She became involved in this project. How? How did you pull Mia Farrow?
Yeah, that's a great story. I was working with Congressman Frank Wolf from Virginia, and he's big into human rights, and he and I and his staff were working together to plan a congressional screening of As We Forgive. And his staff said, we've worked with Mia Farrow in the past on Darfur-related activities here on the Hill. Can we put you in touch with her? So they emailed her. She said, sure. So then I emailed her. And within 5 minutes of my email, she called me. And I was like, oh my gosh, Mia Farrow is calling me. And she said, I'd love to help out with your film. I'll donate my time. And so whatever I can do to help that, I will do. So come on up to my house and we'll do the narration. So she was incredibly generous and wonderful to work with.
What did it feel like flying to LA to receive the Student Academy Award?
Well, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I knew that the Academy was planning like a week of events for all the winners, but when I got there, I didn't realize how well they were going to treat us. I don't even know why. They were so kind to us. The whole Academy, the Board of Governors of the Academy, they all just gave us the best hospitality we could have ever imagined. They paid for everything. They put us up in this great hotel. They had dinners for us. We got to meet with many just Oscar-winning producers, directors, cinematographers. I had many lunches and breakfasts and dinners with these people, and it was like the gatekeepers were gone, and suddenly these people you can't ever talk to, people who've won Academy Awards, were suddenly like, oh, tell me about your student project. Oh, I loved your film. So I think one of my favorite moments was there's a cinematographer named Caleb Deschanel who's been nominated like 5 times. He's done incredible films. And he came up to me at a party and he said, oh, you're Laura Waters Hinson. I loved your film. It moved me so much. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the guy who was the cinematographer for The Patriot, National Treasure. Anyway, so just to know that people of that caliber and that level of the profession were caring about our student films and wanting to invest in us was so extraordinary. It was honestly one of the best experiences of my whole life.
What do you hope people take away from this film?
Well, there have been a lot of films about Rwanda. There's a lot of films about Africa, but the thing that struck me most about this story was that this is a story that Africa has to teach us. And so often we see films where we feel sorry for the Africans, or we're just so overwhelmed by the depressing stuff going on over there. And I thought, this is a story, this is a scenario where Africans in Rwanda are doing something so unfathomable and so incredible that the whole world can learn from this. The whole world can take this as an example and be challenged by it and be inspired by it. So, I truly hope that this film changes the way people think about their own lives and the way that they live their own lives.
One last question. How has this experience, going to Rwanda, meeting with these people and watching their struggles and their triumphs with reconciliation, how has that affected your own personal life?
It's affected my life in unknowable ways, in vast ways. I do have one story that I always tell. After I went to Rwanda, and I thought to myself, oh God, how are you going to use this in my life? I've learned a big lesson. How are you going to call me to use this information, this new knowledge? And about 2 weeks after I got back from Rwanda, my ex-fiance called me. He hadn't called me in years. He had broken my heart, and in a very serious way. We'd been broken up for 4.5 years. 2 weeks after I got back from my shoot in Rwanda, he calls and he says, I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me, and will you let me come and visit you? And I know this has no comparison to genocide in Rwanda at all, but I said, if this man is going to come and ask me to reconcile, I'm going to hear him out. And so needless to say, long story short, 10 months later we were married. So I would say, that this story for me in my marriage, right before we got engaged, the first question my husband asked me is, just to make sure, I want to ask, will you forgive me? And I said, I've already forgiven you and I'll continue to forgive you. And so our marriage is built on forgiveness, I can say, truthfully. And it's been a powerful thing in our own relationship to wash away the old and start with a clean slate. And that's the biggest way I think reconciliation has played out in my own life as a result of the experience in Rwanda.
The power of forgiveness. Thank you so much. You're affecting communities and getting people to begin engaging in civic dialogue about these very real and heart-wrenching topics. So thank you for your wisdom and your ability to go out there and make a change.
I'm Laura Waters Hinson, and you're watching Reelblack.